I'm live. Hello. Hi everybody. Not a fabulous camera angle. Not sure what's going on there. Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome to Monday morning check-in on the 13th of June. If you are new here, my name is Sabina Jackson. The Monday morning check-ins are really just to see how you're all going in these times. So as you pop in, say hi and let me know how you are. It's kind of to ask you how you're going, but also to feel how people are currently navigating, and also to answer any questions and just to consciously set the tone for the week, to remind you that you are setting the tone, right? You are setting the tone. We are setting the tone. It's important for us to remember that. Please let me know. Oh, hey Jen, lovely to have you. And if you're a regular, thank you for showing up. It's always a pleasure to have you live. I know you can't always. So when you watch the replay, please let me know what resonates, what speaks to you, because that helps me to know what to do for next time. Jen, it seems a bit dark on mine. Can you let me know whether it's actually coming through okay or whether it just looks like that? It's also a bit of a weird camera angle, so I'm not sure whether that's throwing it off a bit. So welcome today. I'm going to start with a card. So basically I test through to see clear, good, great, beautiful. I test through kind of where to go, where to start. I'm going to start with a card for the collective. Last week I did a bit of a June cards for June, for the energies of June. And times are so like energetically, we just move through stuff probably in a week that we used to move through in a decade. So you can't really do a reading as you once upon a time might have. And I feel like you can't plan as you once upon a time might have. I was just having a conversation this morning with someone who was saying, how they'd like to live, what their plan is for how they'd like to live, and that the plan is to probably do it in about a year or so. And I said, just be mindful that if something comes to you now, if there's an idea now, if something pops into your head now, there's a reason for it. We can't live in the way we used to live, where we would just plan for like a year ahead, 2 years ahead. Of course, you can do it. You can do it. What I'm saying is, the energetics are not as stable and as set as they used to be. So when you plan something for a year or 2 years ahead, as long as you're happy to kind of keep going with the flow as things evolve and change, as long as you're happy that that may not come to fruition, then great. If it's something where you're like, this is a non-negotiable for me, then I would say do not have a 2-year timeline. Think about, sit down and look at, okay, why do I want to do this? So you always want to know, well, I want to do this from a place of love, a place of expansion, a place of joy, a place of being called. My intuition, my gut is telling me that I want to do this, and not from a place of fear, okay? Sometimes even if you sit down and you go, well, actually, this is coming from a place of fear, it's not necessarily fear that's calling you to do it, but you need to work through that fear first before you can make a good decision for yourself. But just know, usually the things where we say, but I couldn't do that already now, is either fear or it's all the details that our ego brain goes, but how would I? But how would I? And when would I? Hi, Marianne. But how would this work? And how would I? And when? And what? And all of that. And if you get into that, but how would I? But how could I? But how? And you're like, and you can keep throwing things at this idea of why you couldn't do it now and how it's not the right time and how you couldn't possibly, you're in your ego. And your ego is acting from fear, for sure. Your ego is acting from its own smallness, its own inability to change. It doesn't want to change. Your ego doesn't want to change. So if you're looking at wanting to do something and you're thinking of all the reasons why you couldn't possibly do it now, you are definitely in your ego. So take all the, but how would I, but how could I, and how, take all the detail away and sit with the, okay, what am I excited about in this idea? What calls to me? What is good about it? What is expansive about it? What brings a lot of excitement or joy or relief? Or, how would it feel lighter? all of that, and then start to take one step that moves you in the right direction. And as you start to shift in the direction without knowing the how, this is being in the flow. This is moving, like living, being able to shift out of your ego and standing in your own energetics and deciding is going to involve not knowing how. You have to live from you have to be able to live from a place of, I don't know how. I don't know how this is going to happen, and I don't need to. It's okay. Right? And you just take one step that feels like it's in that direction, and you take another, and you take another, and you always allow yourself to change your mind. You always allow yourself to reassess. You can recalibrate constantly. Take a step. How does this feel? Well, hang on, let me just be here for a while. I don't have to figure out what I'm going to do at step M when I haven't even taken step A. But that's how ego works. Ego goes, but how will we? But how are we going to? But what are we going to do in a year's time? What are we going to do when the kids are 5? Well, the kids are 2 now. So don't worry about when the kids are 5. Take the step, feel into it, don't like it, recalibrate. Recalibrate. Think about that bloody annoying voice in your car that every time you decide to go a different, you think, oh no, I know better than this Google Maps, which often you do. You will know if you know the area. And it's busy rerouting. It's going, rerouting, and it's finding a different way to get to where you're going to go. This is how you would live your life completely in flow, completely in alignment, completely in tune. You can't be in tune to 6 months' time. We haven't even created it yet. The energetics, and I didn't know I was going to be talking about this today, but let me know if this resonates, and let me know if this is something you need to hear. I'd love to know, because this is really sparked from this conversation I had this morning with someone who was saying, like, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to live, but probably not for another year or two, because probably they can't yet quite see the logistics of it. And that's not how we work anymore. We haven't created in a year or two, so you can't be making plans for in a year or two. That's not to say to not have any long-term idea or any long-term vision. But what it is reminding you of is live in the present, live in the now. You know all the quotes. That's where your power is. That's where you have the opportunity to create where you currently are. And if you can't yet already bring into fruition the outcome of what you want, then you take the first step and well, then I recalibrate. The other thing is, there's a lot of people looking for work right now who have made choices that is making it difficult for them to work. But ask yourself, how many people do you know that are the same? How many communities are you in? How much are you living in alignment so that other people know they can come to you, they can ask, they know that that's the choice that you've made. And so therefore you build that community. I was in a workshop on Saturday. It was a beautiful workshop, creating salves and herbal teas and stuff, and working with rose hips, actually. And the lady next to me and I, because we're so, I suppose, aligned with who we are, immediately, just one thing we said, let the other person know, okay, there's a doorway here to have a conversation that you wouldn't have with just anybody. And so you can see that the more aligned you are, the more you will also be able to open up the portals and the gateways and the people and the community that get you then to step B. And then they offer step C. And then this is how it happens. When you're standing here in your now and you go, I can't imagine how I'm going to do that. You don't need to. I can't reinforce this enough to you. I can't remind you enough of the importance of get rid of the detail. I know we've been taught detail to manifest. I know we've been taught you have to be able to visualize it really specifically. That is the realm of the ego. And the ego wants the detail so it can control it. Now, have the last 2.5 years not taught you that you cannot control it? There's no controlling it. There's controlling you. And there's not even like control, doesn't even feel the right word. There's mastering you. There's you being conscious. There's you making decisions from a place of awareness and empowerment and alignment. And that is what gets you on that path that you want to be on. So let me know. It's not what I wanted to talk about today, but let me know how that resonates. Let me know if that's helpful. I got a great question yesterday on Instagram. So for those of you who don't know, I have created a new account. It's called Sabina Jackson _ author, because I was no longer able to go live on my Sabina Jackson Conscious Living account. So I created a new account and I sat with it for a little while and I thought, I don't want a backup account. I don't want a second account. I don't want two accounts. So do I live with the constraints of the original because it's built up, it's got all the stuff there, it's got the community there, and I really felt into it and I thought, you know what? I think this is a gift. Like, of course, everything that has happened over the last 2.5 years. If you really feel into it, it's a gift for sure. You will find where there is an opportunity for you in any of the things that have occurred. And with this one, when I sat with it, I thought it's obviously time for an expansion and time for new. It's time for a shifting of house, which means a good clear out, and it means a good releasing. And it's not about looking at, oh, but look at what I created. There's so much content here. There's so much stuff here. Well, yeah, but it's mine. I wrote it. I can write it again. I always write my posts spontaneously. I always write my posts as they come, and I post them in real time. Nothing's batched. Nothing's decided a month ahead. No one else does any of the stuff. I do it. You know, if it's a meme, I get on Canva and I do it. So it's my stuff. I live it. I breathe it. I wrote it. I created it from inspiration by other people who lived, wrote, and created their stuff for sure. But when you hear anything that I say, read anything that I wrote, it is authentically and genuinely something that's come through me. Yes, of course, I've been inspired by other people. You know how very much I've been inspired by A Course in Miracles, but it is then kind of like sifted through me, my own experiences, my own personality, my own energy gets added on top, and then I have created it. So I can do that again. Not a problem. Do I want to go from like just, you know, over 2,000 people down to, I don't know, I think we're at 175 on the new account? Well, you know, not particularly, because the thing is, creating that community has been a commitment and an alignment over time. Many people have gone because I then haven't talked about things in the way they wanted me to talk about. Many people came through different communities and then went, oh, she talks about her business. Sometimes I don't want to be here, so they leave. Well, you know, it's a business account. See you later. But also I go through anybody who, any follow I have, I click on that account and I check and I see whether I think it is a troll account, and then I block them. So I block more people that follow, more people than what stay every day. So that 2,000 is like, you know, it's genuine and it's authentic. Do I want to leave it behind? Well, there's no leaving behind. There's a moving forward, and then whoever wants to come comes along. And I mean, that's the beauty of it. Oh, okay. Mr. Cookson lost his phone at the park walking the dog this morning, and he's just showing me that he found it, which is very good. I'm very happy about that. So it's a forward movement. It's moving to a new account. And I'm going to close the old one off. I'm going to close it off. I don't want to. I don't like stagnant energy. It doesn't need to sit there as a just in case. So if you are on Instagram, come over to the Sabina Jackson author one. I might change that to Sabina Jackson Conscious Living again as the name, because of course that is the name of my website. That is the name on here. But for now, it's called Sabina Jackson author. Come over. And the other one will be closed off. And if you don't want to come over, great, because then you make a conscious decision, and then everybody who's there is there by choice, which is, you know, like current choice in the current energetics, which is really good. So on there, I got this question that I want to read out to you. And as you come in, don't be shy, say hi, write questions in at any time. I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but then any questions that you have about anything I've already said, about whatever you're coming in with, let me know. Okay, so this is the question. I wonder if you could talk a bit about how to not be affected by others' ego and energies. I'm usually quite composed, but when I'm having a conversation or discussion with someone who has a strong ego, my ego seems to come to the fore and I find myself talking like them. Okay, that's key. That's a big one. I always end up worn out and feeling a bit miserable. That's another key thing right there that tells you a lot about what's going on. Oftentimes, I feel like I don't speak up and level with their energy. If I don't speak up and level with their energy, I won't be able to get my point across. Okay, love it because there's a lot in here, so let's unpack it. I'm usually quite composed, but when I'm having a conversation or discussion with someone who has a strong ego, my ego comes to the fore. The first thing I want you to know there, this is all of us, right? So anything I'm about to say applies to all of us, and I want you to ask about okay, where am I like this? How am I like this? What's the insight for me? Because this is a great question that applies across the board. If you find yourself if you find that, okay, well, I'm reasonably peaceful, I'm reasonably calm, I'm reasonably aligned, and then I encounter someone that's not, and I go, to the extent that you can be dragged into your ego by somebody else is to the extent that you're not conscious of your ego, that you're not the one kind of like that you're not the adult in the room. It's to the extent that you can be so if you've read my book Set the Tone, Nothing Can Change Until You Do, I think it's chapter 7, I don't know, where I talk about the ego being the greatest hypnotist of the human mind. And what the ego does is it walks around and it goes, and sleep, and it clicks its fingers and you go to sleep. The you that is conscious, the you that is showing up, the you that is far more evolved, goes to sleep. And ego stands up and takes over. So the extent that your ego can say to you, and sleep, and you kind of fall like into a hypnotic state and it takes over, is the extent that ego still runs the show in your mind. Okay, so that's letting you know how easily you can fall. You fall and ego rises in your mind. Ego goes, I'll take over here. A couple of reasons why this happens. One is that you don't even know what your ego is. You have no idea. You go, I don't even know what you're talking about. Then it will be the dominant energy in your mind. Two, how frightened and worried you are about being able to be the adult in the room. So how much you might think, I can't, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to handle this. I'm incompetent. Any of those things that you're thinking, you are going to go back and you'll go, I'm going to send this feisty me out. I'm going to send this me out that's more able to take it, right? So it kind of sees you as the child and it goes, here, I'll take that. And you go, okay, cool, right? It's like you let your attitude take it. And this is why I'm always saying, be the adult in the room. Be the adult in the room. It's like, that's key there, right? And as to how much you haven't mastered it, as to how much you're still like, oh, okay, there it went again, and you're out, and you're not even aware of it. So that's what's happening there. So I'm usually quite composed, but when I'm having a conversation or discussion with someone who has a strong ego, my ego seems to come to the fore, and I find myself talking like them. So key there, if this is happening to you, and it will be because it happens to all of us, the first thing there to ask is, okay, so this is showing me, because remember, our lives are always about us, and anything that's happening is showing you about you. Anything that's happening is your material. Anything that's happening is your lesson. Anything that's happening is your guidance. So when that's happening to you, you ask yourself, you say to yourself, okay, this is showing me to the extent that I am not the adult in the room. This is where my work lies. I'm being triggered because as composed as I think I am, as aligned as I think I am, as whatever I think I am only that when there is no ripple in the water. When the waters are calm, I'm a really good swimmer. Send me a wave and I am dunked and out for the count. That's what that's telling you. So I always, the ego seems to come to the fore. I find myself talking like them. Okay. Partly, this is also letting you know this is a kind of a little bit of a mirroring thing that you could be doing. So there's that to have a look at. I always end up worn out and feeling a bit miserable. So what this is telling you is that you are acting not in alignment with yourself. You're going against yourself. When you go against yourself, it is exhausting. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Many of you are tired. This is one of the big things to look at. If you are finding yourself very tired lately, firstly, always ask, well, am I resting enough? Secondly, where am I going against myself? So the reason why she finds herself worn out and feeling a bit miserable when this happens is because going against yourself. So you're being taken over, but also you are not actually acting in the way that even your ego would want to act. There's a mirroring going on here, and something has said to your ego has been taught. This is what the next line shows me. Oftentimes I feel like I don't speak up. If I don't speak up and level with their energy, I won't be able to get my point across. Okay, there's two things going on here that are really powerful. The first one is to realize that ego was taught, observed, saw power as being in a particular way. Many of us would have grown up in homes where the most powerful person, right, not real power, ego power, where the most powerful person was often the most aggressive, the loudest. And so then our ego thinks, okay, this is what power is. Power is aggression, power is loud, power is male energy, power is the masculine. That's what culture has taught us for thousands of years. Power is the masculine. The power structures are the masculine. It's the doing. It's all the doing energies. It's the push through. It's the being able to suppress your emotions, but yet at the same time, like, go off at the drop of a hat. That is what most of our egos will have seen in the home, but also collectively on the collective stage of as being power. So this lady's power has gone, this lady's ego has gone, this is what power is. Now to meet them, you have to be the same, right? So I want you to ask that. Next time you meet somebody and their ego is up here and you meet them at the same place and you do find that you think, how come this woman's anger always drags me into mine? Either, okay, there's something else that I'm about to add in here, but let's just firstly say, how come this woman's anger always drags me into mine? Because your ego thinks anger is power. And your ego thinks if I let her be up here angry, and I don't meet her anger with anger, then I will be down here and she will have gotten the better of me, or he will have gotten the better of me. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know whether this is making sense. So, but because this is not something that is actually in alignment with who you are, this is not how you want to be communicating, this is not your authentic and aligned way of communication, you are going against yourself by coming up here and going rah. And so therefore, when you come back, it's exhausting. Okay, good. I'm glad it's exhausting because it's like I've just spent that powwow going against myself. This person whose ego is always immediately goes to anger. Or the other thing I want you to know is, and I'm going to read back over this in a minute and just kind of put it, like, just remind you of what each one says. The other thing to know is, and this is again from a conversation I had with someone the other, people are always telling you, this is where 90% of my sessions are listening to what you say and telling you back what you say with this kind of insight, because people always tell you exactly what you need to know about what issue is going on, because really we do know, we're just not listening. So I was talking to somebody about something and she said, I feel really ashamed about that. And it was completely out of context about something you would feel ashamed about. It was like, what? You feel ashamed about that. And then what I realized was, and that's when I wrote this down to share with you, because this is the insight I had from that interaction. The blocked, stuck, or unexpressed emotion, which in her case would have been shame. Something has happened to us, and that has led to shame, where it is like where you go, okay, I can see why you would feel that, or it's anger, or it's rage, or it's doubt, or it's fear, right? And then that has happened, but that gets stuck. It gets stuck, and then it gets blocked, right? Because we weren't able to express it at the time, or we were made to feel bad about expressing it, which is where the shame would have come in. It's then stuck, or it's unexpressed emotion, and then ego. So that comes first, and then ego goes looking for a reason to express it that often has nothing to do with the current circumstance. So let's say someone who is blocked with shame, they have experienced something where shame came up and they were not able, usually as a child, were not able to release it. Were not able to, they didn't have space held for them to be able to talk about it, to be able to release it, or that it was actively encouraged, they were actively encouraged to feel shame, right? You're such a bad boy, you're such a bad girl, I can't believe you did that, you are so naughty, you've upset me and you've disappointed me and da da da. Or they've done something where the whole family has then, like, it happens. Abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, a lot of shame. People who feel shame then kind of go like that onto often their children or children around them. That child then picks that up. I'm saying shame, it could be anger, it could be fear, rage, any of those things. When it's not then expressed, what it does is it goes in, it's held in the body, it's held in the ego. It is, and then it lies it gets suppressed down, pushed down, still, and it gets stuck. And then what ego will do when it flares up is it will then look for a way to express that emotion, because it's still unexpressed and it needs to be expressed. It needs to come up. Because it needs to come up, ego will find ways to bring it up, but it will then be in situations and scenarios that feel not where it's really, it's a reaction that would confuse the person who's on the receiving end, or it would confuse the people who are observing it. Does this make sense? So I'd love you to check in either after this live or sometime today. Have a sit down and have a think, like, when I get triggered, what is my reaction? Because not everybody's reaction is anger, right? Some people's reaction is silence. Some people's reaction is fear. Some people's reaction is shame. Some people's reaction is avoidance. Some people's whatever, right? Their ego is like, I'm going to avoid you now. And the other person's ego is anger. And they're like, why? But they're still not necessarily in reaction to what's happening. So it can be stuff that's stuck. And at the same time, ego will also hold a thing saying, what is real power? And for many of us, our ego thinks real power is anger. And so with this, it's like when you're then meeting them at that, it is exhausting, because this is not you. The other thing is, oftentimes I feel like if I don't speak up and level with their energy, I won't be able to get my point across. That's ego, not very good at problem solving. What's important to know is that no one is saying just let people do whatever they want to do. Yeah, anger for you, anger for me too. Anger for me too, because I wasn't allowed to express anger. Anger was covered by other people in the family, and I wasn't allowed to be angry. And so then that gets stuck. But we as women hold the added extra, you're not allowed to be angry. We're taught that from birth. That's the boys' domain. The boys are allowed to rah-rah and be angry and get that even out in their play, right? The boys are allowed to yell and shout and fight and do stuff and get that anger out, and the girls are meant to like sip cups of tea. So for women, for all of us women collectively, we will have a lot of suppressed anger. So that is what's going to come up until we make it okay for ourselves to express that anger and find ways to do that, until we hold space for our anger, until we go, no, I'm allowed to be angry, I'm allowed to be fucked off, and right now I am fucked off. And when you find actually like a way of really expressing that and sitting with it, it's really cathartic. It's actually like the insights can be completely life-changing. It can fuel you in an incredible way, which is of course why it's suppressed. But ego will say, okay, so if I'm not meant to meet them in their ego, so am I meant to just let them do whatever they want to do? No. And that's what you can hear in oftentimes I feel like if I don't speak up and level with their energy, I won't be able to get my point across. The problem with that statement, the issue that shines out is level with their energy, because that is disregarding your own. Do you want to speak up? Yes, do it. But getting your point across will be in the way that you do that, will be honoring you and in alignment with who you are. So you can be extraordinarily powerful in and leave the room. You can be honoring and getting your point across, but you're not going to get your point across with someone who's stuck in their ego. Someone who's in full ego flight cannot hear you. They can't hear you. So it's not about passive aggressive and going, it's about just saying, I can't have this conversation with you right now. When you can hear me, I will let you know how I'm feeling. When you can hear me, we can have this conversation again, right? When you're ready, like it can be anything. You can walk away. You can honor the way you want to, but that takes practice, and the mastery in that is what's the right way for me to express who I am, and then I honor that. I want to let you know mine is silence or loss of voice. Rita, yeah. So there is a voice there to be found. There is a voice there that's suppressed, that at some point in time was suppressed. So it's really important to find your voice. But then ego will say, that voice has to be harsh, or that voice has to be the loudest in the room because that's what gets heard, or that voice has to speak this way because that, if it looks back in your memory bank, it will go, well, that's who was listened to. Often the person who's listened to the most is the one who shouts. The one who shouts is always the one who doesn't feel heard. Guaranteed. If someone's shouting, they don't feel heard. So, because no one wants to listen to the shouting person, but most people listen to the shouting person just to get the shouting person to stop shouting, but they don't actually hear them. Because the minute you start shouting, everyone switches off, right? And their own ego gets activated and either goes, I just want this to end, I just want this to end, or their ego gets activated and goes, well, let me tell you about how I feel. And then it becomes like this cow pow. Does that make sense? It is important that you feel like, I don't need to accept this. I'm not going to stay in a room with somebody going off. I get to walk out, or I get to say, don't speak to me like that. Or I get to say, this is not okay. Or I get to say, we're not having this conversation right now. We are not doing this right now. We are just simply not doing this right now. And then do whatever you need to do. That is not you being in your ego. You being in your ego is when you are also coming from a triggered reaction. So I'm going to read this out to you again. And then I want you to let me know if as I'm reading it now, you can see what I'm saying with the answers that I've been giving. How not to be affected by others' ego and energies. I'm usually quite composed, but when I'm having a conversation or discussion with someone who has a strong ego, my ego seems to come to the fore and I find myself talking like them. I always end up worn out and feeling a bit miserable. Oftentimes, I feel like if I don't speak up and level with their energy, I won't be able to get my point across. So I want you to know if you can now, I want you to let me know, can you now see what I'm talking about? And the other thing I want you to know is that when you're in a relationship with somebody, like everyone should be allowed to be a bit fucking mental every now and again, right? We need to start being able to hold space for each other's egos and to be able to look at someone and go, okay, she's gone. She's left the room. Her ego is now the one talking to me. I do it all the time with clients. That's a lot easier for sure than somebody that's in your family or that you're in a relationship with, of course, because mind you, there's a lot of practitioners that get triggered by their clients. Do not think that the client practitioner relationship can be any less triggering than any other relationship, right? If you haven't done your own work, then you as a practitioner are going to get triggered by your clients for sure. But what happens is that often I will now, I'm so obviously tuned at picking up on when I'm hearing when their ego's talking to me, that I will then go, okay, like we can't do your session in this tone. We can't do there's no point me doing I'm not going to try and convince your ego is what I would usually say to them. If they've started down the thing of, but what if and what if and what if and what if, I'm like, just breathe, because I'm not going to talk to your ego. That's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your money for me to do 90 minutes with you swirling in fear, because you're going to leave that session. You're going to go, I have no idea what she really said, but you know what? It didn't help me. It didn't make me feel better. It's the same on connection walks. Sometimes like people get amazing stuff and then they immediately can go down into, but I was thinking and what if, and then I'm like, just breathe and just come back to where you just were a minute ago. It's so interesting how much ego wants to pull ourselves out of that as well. Like, come back down here. So when somebody is in their ego, it is nice if we can hold space for them. Now, I'm not saying to you for you to say, well, I'm not going to, you're not going to say the same things as I would say to someone in a session. But sometimes, it can come from a place of love when you can let somebody be in their ego space and not react. But only do that if it's somebody who is willing to then hear you when you say, that was not the time to have that conversation. They have to be awake enough and aware enough and willing to do their own work enough to go, yeah, that was I just lost my mind. We all lose our mind. We all lose our mind. We all forget ourselves. We all go back to sleep often, right? So it's important that we allow ourselves to be human. And the tired, have a think about how much you're going against yourself. Okay, there was a collective card. I'm going to choose one, and then I'm going to do 2 readings. So if you would like one, let me know. Just if you would like me to choose a card for you, just let me know. Pop it into the comments. I'm going to first choose one for the collective and have a think about what I've said. I know I've said a lot and I know I talk fast. So please let me know if you have any questions on what I talked about, if you have any questions about what I said, and let me know how you're doing. Doctor-patient relationship, I have found a great example full of ego. Yes, because they need to be adored. You will know you found a good doctor when you can go in and you can go, okay. So for me, of course, an ex-nurse, like my doctor visits are very different to what somebody's would be who has no medical knowledge. So mine are generally, I don't tend to go. That's the first thing. The second thing is when I have needed to, I've needed something or whatever, or, I've wanted some guidance and advice, they're filled with me saying, right, so this is what's going on. I want your take on it. And then I decide what I take and what I don't take. there's a lot of people that would not be able to meet me at that spot because they're like, no, I'm the doctor. I get to say, yeah. And it's a good, and isn't it a good example? Actually, Rita, that's such a good example for us all to keep in mind about that's one relationship where most people won't go up to meet them. Hi, Polo. That's one relationship where people won't go up to meet them. They've been taught you are down here. The doctor's ego has been taught a doctor is here and a patient is here. And so most people, no matter what the doctor's like, the patient won't react. It's the same with most nurses. Doctors go off and stuff, they'll either just go, oh, just ignore it. I think it's a little bit that dad energy in a house, you know, just ignore dad. You know, he's had a hard day. He's got a lot of pressure on him. Yeah, but sometimes dad's just an asshole and dad needs to be called on that shit for sure. So please don't ever think I'm saying to you to just be completely passive and just put up with people's stuff. What I'm saying is if you respond, if their ego gets you into yours, that shows you where your work lies. If you're going against yourself because you're mirroring them because you think, well, that's what power is, you're so out of alignment, you're going to be exhausted and you're going to actually probably walk away from that scenario. And there might be a little bit of feeling good about, yeah, I showed it. I showed them, I met them there, but then there'll be a lot of like, oh my God, that just feels so off. Yes, be in your power, stand in your truth, be in alignment. But you do that in whatever way that looks for you. You do that authentically. You don't do that in whatever way you think, like what ego thinks power is. And you do it from as conscious a space as you can. The child within, inner mother, innocence, gentleness, and tenderness. This is the card that's come up for the collective. Anything from the book? Yes. So inner mother, innocence, gentleness, and tenderness. There's definitely nowhere near enough mothering of ourselves. So inner mother, that softness, because we are switching over from that patriarchal to beyond the patriarchal. I'm not saying that we're going to matriarchal. I don't know that we are. I actually think we're going to unity consciousness. And so we're moving from patriarchal. If we're moving to unity, then we are going to have balanced expression of both. We're going to have a balanced expression of the divine masculine. We're going to have a balanced expression of the divine feminine in the collective. In each one of us, you'll still have more of one or the other. But when you're in the divine expression of it and not in the toxic expression, not in the ego expression of it, when you're in the wise expression of feminine and masculine, then that inner mothering, there will be a softness that comes with that. There'll be a holding space for each other. There will be a regard for each other's emotions that have never happened before. And the reason why most people get triggered by other people's egos is because we have so much unmet, unexpressed, and blocked emotion in our body that it's almost like an invitation to start chucking yours out as well. And then it's like, right, well, I'm going to meet your anger and I'm going to raise you whatever. And then it becomes this just a way to express that blocked stuff because we haven't found it in other ways. And that inner mothering, that gentleness and that tenderness actually will hold space for anger in yourself. Yep. Still need to look. Yep. Okay, let me see what the book says. And anybody who would like a card, please put it in. I'm going to do 2. Please put it in the comments. First come, first served. If you would like anything, any guidance on something. The child within. The child within 68. Okay. How can you tenderly tend the child within? I want you to write this down. If you're listening to the replay, write it down and just sit with this for the week. How can I tenderly tend to the child within? Because everything is in that time. That child time has collected all the stuff that is all that blocked and unmet, and it's the family stuff, and then it's the collective stuff. So how can I tenderly tend the child within? Ask yourself that, sit with it, maybe write, see what comes. What do I want to do? Maybe have more lightness in your day, maybe regard yourself more, stop pushing through, stop putting off what you want to do, have more fun, and then you mightn't be so tired. Like all of that can be like, yeah, see what comes for you. Okay, Jen. Yes, mothering ourselves is so important. Now, I don't know if it's Paulo or Parlo. Okay, Paulo or Parlo. So put in 1 or 2 to let me know which way to pronounce it. Paulo or Parlo. My mother died 5 days ago. Oh, I'm so sorry. Interesting card that came up. Oh, I'm so sorry. How are you? How are you, Paul? Okay. How are you? How are you at the moment? And we send you lots of love. That's there's so much releasing and there's so much moving on at this time. Please know that people who, like souls who are leaving physically, they have other things to numb. Yeah, for sure. They have other journeys. They have other destinations. They have other roles that don't involve being in the body. The death has always been looked at. Death is just taught so well. It's inverted. Okay, in the Matrix, death is inverted in the sense that it is taught as something bad instead of so to keep us from the powerful portal that it is. Death is never a like, you know, when people say, oh, they're battling with cancer and, you know, she was so brave and whatever. It's not a lack of death is not a lack of bravery, and death is not a losing the game. It's not like, oh, I lost my life. It is a transition, and a lot of people have been, and will continue to be leaving this space, and we don't know why. So it's important that we don't think, oh, you know, they're not ones that are meant to come along, or they're not ones that whatever, or for, you know, whatever they died of, or it's people are going to different expressions of their soul self. But everybody's part of this, and so it'll be interesting, Paul, what role she continues to play in your journey, energetically, what she can give you. Sometimes the bond with our family members can actually be like a lot more powerful and stronger once they are no longer in physical form, because of course then they are kind of more connected to that powerful expression of themselves. So Paul, yeah, it'll be interesting how your relationship with her evolves energetically and on a soul level. But we send you lots of love, Paul. Okay, and I'm just choosing this oil for you. Palma Rosa, and see what message it has for you. Palma Rosa. Softness. The message of this oil is softness. Oh. And the healing characteristics is it provides a safe, soft, nurturing, and protective space to release, learn, and heal from grief, pain, and anger. It's called Palma Rosa. Palmarosa. You don't have to get it. I'm sort of smelling it on your behalf, surrogating that for you, so that will be you're receiving that. It's softness, and it's to provide a safe, soft, nurturing, and protective space to release, learn, and heal from grief, pain, and anger. So I hope that's helpful for you, Paul. Rita. wanted a card. No, Jen. Okay, Jen. Jen, just hold in mind what you wanted on. You don't have to put it into the message box. You're welcome, Paul. Okay, Jen. The deck is the Earth Alchemy Oracle. It's a beautiful deck, and the card that has come up for you is this one. And what it says is, so it's each one is a it's a plant as well as a crystal, and the crystal is emerald, and the plant is milk thistle. So milk thistle is interesting because it's a detox for the liver, which is where we store our anger. But the card says, heal the healer. Heal the healer. Soul's Truth, Atlantis, Emerald Tablets. Heal the healer is the message for you, Jen, and you being the healer. You being the healer in terms of the role that you hold within people's lives, within your family, you know, just within community. So it's time to heal you. Not that there's anything that you need healing from, but with the liver stuff that I said, that's just an interesting, it's just, it's time to really focus on I feel there's a lot of excitement there actually, like, you know, really focus on, I don't know if you've heard me talk about right at the start of all of this, I mentioned this a few times, that there's this incredible opportunity available to all of us right now. And what's happening is that people vie for space in our mind, right? You know this. You head onto social media, you go anywhere, people are vying for space. And I've said, like, this is prime real estate. This is prime real estate. You need to be mindful and conscious and aware of who you rent it out to, of who you allow to take up residence in this prime real estate, right? And so in a sense, there's an excitement there, Jen, and there's like, what I want to remind you of, and start to feel into this and see what it inspires you to do, is that when you first go to uni, you have O week, orientation week, and what happens there is all the clubs and all the different things set up a stall, and they want you, because you're coming in as like fresh meat, and they want you. They go, come and join up with us. So they'll have beer and they'll have balloons and they'll have, like, I don't know, snags and whatever, like, to entice you. And so I'd love you, Jen, and whoever this resonates with, embody the excitement and the energetics of like walking in and going, what do I want to do? And just seeing like everything is up for offer. Everything is an option. Everything, what do I want to do? And just start to move towards things that feel good, and then go, okay, I'm going to look at that. Yep, I want a bit of that. I want a bit of that. And so heal the healer for you yourself. It's like, it's time to like really see this, the primeness of your energy, and the like, just claim that and go, I'm evicting everybody that I don't want there, and I'm going to just start putting in what I really want to have there. Okay, and that's why I booked another session with you. I feel like I have to heal to move forward. Beautiful. So I love that we've already started the work, Jen. I love that. Often from the time people book, they'll say, oh, I noticed this. Sometimes people will book and then go, I was really emotional, I started crying. The work starts. The work starts from the time you book. The work sometimes starts from even before you decide to book, because you're doing the work, but then when you book, I suppose we start doing the work for sure. Energetically, we'll already be working together. Rita, Sabina would love a card, have been sick for over a week. Oh, okay. All right. So Rita. And then that'll be the last one for today. But any questions on what I've said, just pop them in and I'll answer them in the next few minutes. Okay. Put that back and start again. Alrighty. It's too much mess, apparently. Put it back and start again. Oh, is that for Rita? Yeah, that's for Rita. Put it back and start again, Rita. See what that means to you. Put it back and start again. Okay, can we get more info on that for Rita? Yes. Okay, a card from this deck. Okay, so here's what they said to me. This deck was already out. It's where I chose the collective card from, and it was all over the table here, the desk, and they said, put it back and start again. But then I've been like, but this is tested up as being the deck to use for you. So see what that means for you. Put it back and start again. But this is the deck to use for you. Okay. See what symbolically that means. Whispers of Mother Earth. Whispers of Mother Earth. Creativity, ideas, inspiration, artist, writer, channel. Whispers of Mother Earth. Creativity, ideas, inspiration, artist, writer, channel. See what that's saying to you, Rita. And they're all of equal importance. They're all coming out. Being more creative, letting ideas flow, inspiration. See where it fits in, like the put it all back and start again. But it was from the same deck, so that'll be interesting. Artist, writer, channel. If you have a blocked here, that will be an important thing to release. Start working with that for sure. Even speaking truth to yourself when you're the only one in the room can be a great way to start. Just using your voice. Okay, I hope that's helpful, Rita. I don't have a PayPal, Paul. I don't have one. Clients book through Stripe when they book a session. But I have been reluctant to get a PayPal because a lot of people I know who speak any form of anything that goes against the mainstream have actually lost their PayPal accounts. So I've been reluctant to go there, I have to say. So I don't have one. Okay. Much love to you all. Thank you for being here. This was very different to what I thought we were going to talk about today. But then you know what? I love when that happens because they're the best ones. They're the best ones. And I often don't prepare a lot other than like that. Go live because it comes once I'm here and in the space. And it comes, your energy when you show up, your questions or your energy. Great. I'm glad it was good. Your questions and your energy create it, right? So I'm best on the fly. And so I love just showing up and you guys going, okay, and starting to feel into you what you're feeling and just you asking questions, like it really helps. But also just bring your daily stuff. That's why it's called Monday Morning Check-In. Like, how are people doing? Because we're all going through tough things. Obviously, some a lot more so than others at different times, but we are all in this together. That's not just like a nice thing to say. It's true and it's truth. And together we will build the thing that we want to live in, and together we will transmute this, each individually, but also then collectively. So I like to feel in, how is everybody? That's why it's a Monday morning check-in. And yeah, send me through questions ahead of time. if that's what, if you would like, and I'll look through any of them and then speak on what comes. And I hope that me reading through and talking through like the things that really jumped out at me about the ego stuff, we can all relate to that. Thank you for that question. We can all relate to that. And it's literally about just being more conscious, being the adult in the room, being more conscious. So have a lovely week. I won't be here next Monday. It is my birthday, finally, for everybody who's wished my birthday a million times, because I keep posting about birthday celebrations. Thank you for all your thank you for your wishes. It's my birthday next Monday and I'm away. So I won't be here next Monday, but I will be back the following, whenever that is. When is that? It is the 27th of June. Okay, yeah, because 20 and 7 would be 27. As you can see, maths is not my forte. Lucky I have other talents. All right, much love to you all, and I will see you in a fortnight. In the meantime, if you're watching the replay, please let me know what resonates. Let me know what speaks to you. Any questions, send them to me, and I'll see you over on my new Instagram account. All right, much love to everybody. Have a good day.